A woman police officer and her team go looking for a young girl who phones emergency services because her mom won't wake up. Things get really scary when the officer enters the girl's house that night. The police were very busy at the station that day because they were looking into a murder case. All their phone lines were full, with calls about different emergencies from around the city. Then, they got an unusual call from a young girl. 911. What's your emergency? The dispatcher answered as an eerie silence sprawled in the background, followed by a loud wheezing sound on the receiver. I'm hungry. Mommy doesn't wake up all day, a little girl spoke as she burst into tears. Where are you? I don't know. Mommy told me to call 911 if I am in trouble, answered the girl, sounding terrified about something. The dispatcher then pressed the girl for more details about her location. Calm down. And what is your name? Elena. Elena, can you tell me your address? After a grave silence, Elena gave the dispatcher the address she lived at earlier, but she didn't know where she currently was. Elena, can you tell me about your current location? Can you describe it? Although the little girl did not know the address, she was able to give the officer visual clues to her current location. I can see big gray houses outside. There's a big, angry dog barking outside. There are trees and a broken gate outside. All right, Elena, stay where you are. We are sending help right away. The details were then passed on to Officer Nancy, 34, and her team. They immediately left in search of the girl and arrived at the first address she had given. The cops marched to the address and looked around for details matching the girl's description, but saw it was entirely different. Anyone in there? Nancy knocked on the door, but nobody answered. She peeped into the glass window and saw it was dark and dusty inside. It appeared to have been unlived for a very long time. Nancy then checked with the neighbors and learned that a family of 3, a man, his wife, and a little girl named Elena, used to live there. Do you know where they are now? No, officer, a man told Nancy. After Mr. Jakes died in an accident 6 months ago, his wife and daughter became very poor. The landlord kicked them out because they could not pay the rent. I don't know their address, but I heard from a friend who had seen them in an impoverished area 12 miles from here. Nancy followed the clues and took off to that spot. It was getting darker, and to make things worse, the area was out of electricity. Hush, 1 second. Nancy silenced a fellow officer after hearing a faint sound of a dog barking somewhere quite far from their spot. She recalled Elena mentioning a dog that constantly kept barking near her whereabouts. That must be it. Let's go that way. Nancy instructed her team to follow her and arrived at a small, shabby house. Nancy turned on the flashlight on her phone to get a clearer view and noticed a silhouette of someone near the window. She looked closely and saw a little girl crying and waving for help. A stray dog was constantly barking outside and charged toward the cops. Nancy quickly picked up a pebble and hurled it at the dog, scaring it away. Then, she kicked the door open and entered the house, guessing little about what else was inside. Hey, it's okay, it's okay. Don't cry, Nancy comforted Elena, who ran to her crying. The girl looked distraught. I'm hungry, Mommy is not waking up all day, she's sleeping. She kept chanting repeatedly. Nancy carried Elena outside and put her in the car. Please give her some biscuits. I'll be right back, she told her team and went back inside to check where Elena's mother was. She searched for the woman in every nook and corner of the house, but could not find her. As Nancy kept looking, she found a doorway to a basement. She walked in and found Elena's mother lying unconscious on the floor. Nancy raced to the scene and touched the woman to awaken her, only to feel her cold body. Elena's mother was dead. Officers, get in here. Quick, Nancy freaked out and immediately alerted medics and social services. Moments later, an ambulance arrived and scooped the woman's body up to be taken for an autopsy. Nancy didn't know how to disclose the news to Elena because she had been thinking her mom was sleeping. How will I tell her that her mother is dead? Nancy wondered. Mommy, where are they taking my mommy? Mommy, wait. Elena ran after the ambulance. Nancy stopped and held her tight and tried comforting her. Sweetie, Mommy will be fine. Be a good girl and listen to what I say. No, I want to go to Mommy. Leave me. Sweetie, Mommy will be back. You will stay with me until then, all right? Elena began to cry as she clutched her little teddy bear tight. When social services arrived moments later, they told Nancy that the girl would be sent to a foster home. For some reason, the cop didn't like the idea and it hurt her more to think about the impact it would make on 5-year-old Elena when she learned her mom was dead. "No, I'll take the child home tonight. She has to clean up and eat and calm down. I'll bring her to the shelter tomorrow." Despite weighing up the risks, Nancy took Elena home. "Oh my God, darling, who is this?" Jacob, Nancy's husband, was stunned when he answered the door and saw Nancy holding and asleep Elena in her arms. "I'll tell you everything, honey, but not now. I'm tired. Can we eat first?" "And I found her mother's body in the basement." Nancy narrated everything to Jacob. "We are yet to find out how she died." "Does the girl know that?" "No, I don't know how to tell her. She still thinks her mother is fine in the hospital. Her heart will break when she comes to know the truth." "Poor thing, but how long do we keep her with us?" Jacob asked when a strange idea struck Nancy. That night, after Elena fell asleep. "Darling, I was thinking, why don't we adopt Elena?" Nancy asked Jacob. "We have been trying for a baby for a really long time. I really don't know what's wrong with my body. The tests are fine, there are no complications, but I don't know why I'm not able to conceive." As it turned out, Nancy and Jacob could not conceive for several years. They tried every method to have babies, but to no avail. Nancy had almost stopped hoping to be a mom and focused on her job instead. She felt really sad, thinking she couldn't have a child. But spending time with Elena, a young girl, made her feel better. She suggested to her husband Jacob that they should adopt Elena, as she needed parents and was going to be adopted by someone else anyway. Jacob thought about it and felt that Elena filled a missing part in their lives. He didn't care that Elena wasn't his biological child. For him, family was about love, not blood. He agreed to adopt her. The next big thing they worried about was how Elena would feel at her mother's funeral. The next day, Nancy left Elena at the foster home, promising to come for her soon, and took her to her mother's funeral 2 days later. Anxiety kicked in as Nancy led Elena to her mother's coffin. She didn't know how to tell the little one that her mother had died of a heart attack, as revealed in the autopsy report. "Honey, stay right here. This place is so quiet, isn't it?" She tried distracting Elena. "Yes, full of butterflies and flowers and candles. And what are these crosses for? And what's in that black box?" Poor Elena didn't know that it was a coffin that held her mother's lifeless body. "Sweetheart, sometimes, when God loves us and becomes overly protective of us, He invites us to His house in heaven, and we can live there with Him forever." "A house in heaven?" Elena exclaimed. "Yes, sweetie. Where is Mommy? I want to see her." "Honey, your Mommy has gone to live with God, and she told me to take care of you. You will know everything when you become big." Nancy was heartbroken and couldn't explain more to Elena, a young girl. She cried and hugged Elena, knowing she had to make a big decision. Later, Nancy and her husband Jacob adopted Elena and had a big party to celebrate. Jacob was giving a speech about how happy he was to adopt Elena, thinking it was the best moment of his life. But then Nancy surprised him by revealing they were also going to have a baby, making them a family of 4. Jacob was overjoyed, and they celebrated their growing family.